Hello, everybody, and welcome back to the channel for another roundtable review for Doctor Who Season 1. I have Pete and Josh with me today, and Miles might be popping in depending on certain things, but we'll see how it goes. There might be a twist at the end, there might not. The twist might be that there isn't a twist, we'll see. But yes, today we are discussing Boom. Um, I've got a bit of a cold at the moment. I need an ambulance unit to come and sort me out or not. But yeah, if I sneeze at any point or anything, that's why. Otherwise, yeah, let's
If he
get into this.
sneezes, unsubscribe. Unsubscribe for the sneezing.
Yeah, combat detected. Sharp scratch. Yes, so send your thoughts and prayers. Send your thoughts and prayers. So yeah, Boom. Stephen Moffat's first episode in 7 years. Let's get into this. I suppose, as ever, let's briefly talk about how and when we watched this for the first time, because I watched it at midnight again. I was actually getting a bit sleepy beforehand, like in the half hour beforehand. I was going to sat there on the sofa dozing off, and I was sort of wondering whether to leave it till the next day. But I'm really glad I didn't, because number one was a great episode, and number two, I think having to dodge spoilers and stuff would have been quite difficult. Like, as soon as that pre-title was played, I was like, yeah, I'm glad that I stayed up for this, because I'm immediately kind of engrossed in what's going on now. But yeah, Pete, did you watch it at midnight as well, like me?
Yeah, so I did midnight and then watched it again with my parents the next day. So I
Yeah.
did it twice. Yeah.
And Josh, how about you?
I watched it on midnight as well
Oh, cool. All of
for
us
the
this week.
first
Okay.
time
Yeah.
because I sort of thought after the premiere last week, I thought I'm not going to wait again because I was slightly underwhelmed with those episodes, and I feel like the
Yeah.
wait played a part in that because I waited all day and
Oh, really?
watched
Okay.
this.
Right.
So I thought I'll just at midnight I'll watch the episode, and again, like you said, it's a fantastic episode, so I'm glad I did that. But also, I felt like watching it at midnight, you got that whole sort of group community watching experience again. If you watched it at midnight and went onto Twitter afterwards, it was all fresh. So,
Yeah.
I guess that's the price you have to pay in terms of if you want to experience it all together at the same time. You can't really do that when it airs anymore. You have to watch it at midnight. But it's nice to know that that is still sort of there. And the sort of load of content afterwards, people going, oh my God, that was Verada Sefu, and oh my God,
Yes.
and all this stuff. It was great watching those revelations in real time as well, as opposed to last week. So, yeah.
It's interesting that there are two things there to pick up on, I think. I mean, number one, because I've kind of seen other people say on the flip side that staying up until midnight they found detracted from the experience as well, like made it a bit underwhelming. I think with two episodes, there's kind of an element of that. Like, if you've watched one and you're not so sure, and you've got another one to watch, and it's like 1:30 or 2 o'clock by the time you've finished, and then with a musical number as well that comes out of nowhere, it's like kind of a bit like, oh, okay, I'm not so sure. But yeah, it's interesting. I suppose there's different views on that. I think if it is just one episode, it's kind of more manageable in that regard. But also as well, I kind of saw some people saying, some of the people that waited till the next day, the Saturday, which was quite a sunny day from memory, saying that they, watching it over breakfast or in the afternoon or during the day, and they really struggled to get into the vibe of it because like the sun was streaming through the windows from outside. So again, yeah, in that regard, I was glad that I stayed up and had the full experience of watching it.
Yeah, it's definitely a
in the
nighttime
dark.
watch.
It was, wasn't it? Yeah, and it felt more like a kind of autumnal evening slightly, which I think is always good for Doctor Who generally, particularly for an episode like this. And I suspect for an episode like next week as well, which we'll get on to.
Yeah.
But yeah, so I guess, did we all enjoy this broadly? Was it our favourite episode so far? Would we all say that? I don't know. I think I would, but
Definitely. I thought it was fantastic. I very much enjoyed this week.
Yeah, I enjoyed it. I don't think it's one that I'd want to rewatch all the time, but I enjoyed it. And it's not, I think I said last week, it's not really my sort of episode. I'm not a big fan of Midnight and kind of bottleneck episodes. But I enjoyed it. I think part of that was because it felt more like Doctor Who than the last two episodes.
Definitely did.
Which was quite nice. And there's certain Moffatisms which were quite good, and it was quite tense. Not the most tense thing this week. That was getting tickets for the proms, but
yes, the same morning. Yeah,
yeah, it was.
Oh God,
it was good. It was enjoyed it.
Yeah,
enjoyed it.
Okay, I suppose then let's get into some of the stuff that happened. Probably Varada, I think Varada is how you say her name, is probably a good place to start. Varada Sethu, I believe, is it? Because she showed up. So we were already used to having one particular woman, who I'm sure we'll talk about later on, who's been showing up in these episodes in unexpected ways. And then, the pre-titles begins and you have that bit that they release as a preview clip beforehand. So you're like, okay, yeah, I get what's going on here. And then she appears from out of nowhere and it's like a whole extra thing thrown in. So, yeah, how did we respond to that? Did everybody realise straight away, or not until afterwards, or not until later on, or how did that go?
I didn't realise at all. It wasn't until after I watched it and my dad phoned me up and said, "What did you think?" and mentioned that it was the same actor. I had no clue. I didn't even clock throughout the whole episode. I thought it was a completely different person. So it'll be interesting to see whether. I don't think this character is going to come back. I think it's going to be more of a case of like Freema Agyeman in Army of Ghosts, and sort of maybe they'll meet a character in season 2 and be like, "Oh, you look like someone we met before." So I don't think we'll see more of this character. But I was very impressed with Varada as an actor. So I'm looking forward to seeing more of her in season 2.
Yeah, I didn't recognize her at first. My brother pointed out when she was on, and I actually thought he was joking. Like, I thought he was just saying that she looks like her. But then, as soon as the episode finished, the first thing I saw on, I think it was Gallifrey Base or social media, wherever it was, said that was her. And I was like, oh, it was actually her. Amazing. So it was well hidden.
Yeah, and I think, like Josh was saying, it probably is like a Freema type scenario. I mean, if you think back, there are other examples of this even before that, like in series 1 with Nakamori showing up, like Tosh from Torchwood in Aliens of London, or Eve Miles coming back again in Torchwood. I think it probably is a case of getting someone in for one episode and then the team being really impressed by that person and thinking, oh yeah, we might as well have them back because we need a new companion now, or another companion, or whatever it may be. But yeah, I kind of get the feeling, I think it will be a new character, but they'll probably contrive some reason as to why she has the same face, even if it's something relatively simple, like with Eve Miles, with Gwen, and being a relative of Gwyneth in Young Quiet Dead or whatever. Something like that. It was interesting because another thought I had while watching that was, like I say, we've got Susan Twist, we've got the mysteries going on, and this was kind of meant to be a sort of a standalone episode kind of thing. And I was kind of thinking, my gosh, are they going to keep piling stuff on like every episode now? We're going to keep getting extra things added on? Because if so, that would be a bit kind of bit much, I think, but overwhelming, rather than kind of addressing some of the things you've already kind of got going, the plates you've got spinning. But I think it probably is just one of those serendipitous things. But nevertheless, it did kind of add to it, and I know that when watching it, it just added that extra level beyond the actual premise, which was very intense in itself. Just added that extra thing of like my mind kind of spinning and thinking, what's going on here? Like, what's going on here? What's going on here? What's going on here? So yeah, in terms of the premise, obviously the Doctor stands on a landmine, as we kind of knew going into this. How did we feel about that and how it was done, and how I suppose so much of the episode was literally based around that and based in that location, and how it all kind of played out?
I loved it. I mean, first of all, as soon as the Doctor steps on that landmine, it cuts to the titles, and the titles are in sync for the first time. So I knew straight from the start of this story that I knew it was going to be a good one. But yeah, I really loved it. I think I'm a massive fan of stuff like it was in sync, Pete. I mean, I was just pleased.
I swear I saw someone say it wasn't in sync, but I would have to check.
The way that the music goes, it's sort of like
are there any things to look out for? Kind
too long. So basically, either you get the sort of swirls of the TARDIS in sync, and you don't have the logo in sync, or you don't get
okay.
the
So there are different
swirls of
ways
colours
of
in sync. But when it goes
doing
like
it.
the logo comes in at that time, and that's how it was in the story.
Right, I'll have to go
Anyway,
back and
we're not
check
getting
for
into
that.
the
Yeah.
logo conversation yet.
Yeah.
I liked it, but another thing I like other than good logos is inside number 9 and sort of Bostle episodes, as we've established before, stuff where it's really um one location, you focus on the tension of the characters, especially someone who's like studying script writing at the moment. I really loved how this story was so tense, and the tension just got like higher and higher throughout the episode because another thing just added and got worse. It was quite nihilistic because the Doctor steps on a landmine, and then um, the Doctor finds his casket and it's got a dead person inside. Then you find out that you've got their child there. Then you find out that the child's mum's dead as well as her dad. Then someone else appears who's threatening the Doctor. Then Ruby gets shot. It's just hectic and crazy, and it never lets up. And I was genuinely on the edge of my seat watching it. I could not look away. It was fantastic, and also it was really quite a relieving experience because I wasn't the biggest fan of the past 2 episodes, and part of me did think, is it me? Am I growing out of Doctor Who in a way, or is this a new era not for me? So it was a really nice experience to watch it and go, yeah, this is a Doctor Who episode that I'm really into, and also you can feel is going to become a classic, I think. So it was a very nice experience watching this, and I loved it. I thought it was phenomenal.
Yeah, I feel much the same. It was the thing for me is it didn't drag at any point because I feel like with Devil's Squad and especially Space Babies, it did drag, and you are looking at your watch a little bit as you're going along. But with this, it was just it whizzed by, which is always a good sign. So yeah, enjoyed it. I think it was the first episode where I felt like Ncuti was the Doctor. He really felt like the Doctor to me. He kind of
Okay.
Yeah.
Definitely.
I was going to say, obviously, Pete, you were saying how you don't normally like episodes like this particularly. Was there anything, I don't know, anywhere that kind of subverted your expectations or made you like it in a way that you thought you weren't going to be able to? Was there anything specifically that kind of that worked better than you expected, or just generally? Or
yeah, I'm not sure what it was, to be honest. I mean, it still had its mistakes. So I feel like they kind of like Ruby gets shot and then there's no consequence to that, really. I mean, I still don't quite understand how she's okay. I don't get what happened there.
Yeah, I think it was the ambulance kind of,
saved her.
I can kind of understand, like some of the contrivances there, specifically, particularly as you get towards the end and there's all these things, like the ambulance is a thing that electrocutes the love interest character, and also the way it all comes back around. I suppose we'll talk about the resolution more specifically, but the way that resolves, and kind of part of me thought, it's a nice way to kind of tie everything together and to have it all come back round to that, and like the whole kiss kiss phrase that we hear like in one of the opening moments of the episode, and have everything revolve around the ambulances, and again it kind of adds to that kind of contained nature where it's all kind of there hidden in plain sight from the get-go, like the whole premise of it. Like watching it back now, I'm like, oh yeah, like of course there are no Castarians, of course this is what's going on, and it's the technology kind of manipulating stuff and kind of manufacturing this war and situation out of nowhere. But yeah, at the same time, there's a part of me that can kind of see as well, a voice in my head was saying, is this a cop out? Is this contrived? I don't know.
I think it did have the whole problem that the Moffat era had with the whole sort of love conquers all resolution, which has cropped up again here. I did feel like that was a bit of a cop out. I wasn't too impressed with that, but not really. I mean, I thought, like I said, that the way tension was built and everything that happened was incredibly gripping, and I loved it. I thought it was fantastic. The one thing I do want to make a point of though is that you, Pete, said that Ncuti felt like the Doctor for the first time in this story. I want to challenge that by saying, did he feel like the Doctor, or did he just feel more like a Doctor that we're familiar with, because I would
Yeah,
say
that's
that
true.
He was written very much like the 12th Doctor. The way that
yes,
the you have the scene with Ruby when she's like, "I'm going to give you it. I'm not going to throw it to you. I'm going to put it in your hand," which was very Clara and 12. And then when she's unconscious and he's talking to her, like, "Have you worked it out yet?" Very heaven sent. I would say that this was a Doctor who was written very much like Capaldi, and maybe he didn't have his own sort of characteristics in it. Maybe he felt too much like a generic Doctor. What do you guys think?
that's interesting actually, because I know that Moffat has done interviews both in the past and more recently for this, where he's been asked about how do you find it writing for a new Doctor, and how do you meet that challenge, and he kind of just says, oh well, the Doctor's the Doctor and all that kind of stuff, which people often say, and I suppose your mileage will kind of vary on that. I kind of think it's telling as to how he views the character, and he obviously has a very I would say very good understanding of the Doctor as a character, probably better than any other writer in my opinion. And but then, like you say, it's that thing of, is he just writing his version of the Doctor full stop, rather than like writing the 50th Doctor or whatever. I did feel it was noticeable, obviously, yeah, the kind of Moffat's isms and the dialogue and the rhythm to it, and the kind of pithy little comments and bits, the way he packs a lot of stuff into the dialogue. I felt that was noticeable, kind of right from the off, right with that scene with the Doctor and Ruby after the titles, like you say as well, kind of like the 12th Doctor and Clara dynamic almost. It did. I don't know whether it took me out of it, but it was certainly something that was very noticeable, and it's an interesting point to bring up because I suppose, yeah, like I don't remember feeling this so much kind of in recent memory or recent years or whatever, where you can really tell like the voice of the author, the voice of the writer, and that's kind of separate from the bigger picture and how these characters have already been established. So I don't know how I feel. There was certainly kind of a nostalgic element to hearing that kind of dialogue again, but yeah, it is a bit. It does feel a bit like a bit of a weird one. Like, have we? I don't know. Have we had a defining moment yet, or is it kind of too fluid or too flexible, kind of, merging between these different styles rather than like setting something like a kind of ground house style or whatever? I don't know. Pete, how do you feel about that?
Well, I think the dialogue, it's interesting because there was a line where he says, paraphrasing, but something like, "I will shatter this feeling dust in a heartbeat," or whatever. And I remember hearing that in the trailer, and first of all, I thought it was from the finale, which it obviously wasn't. But also, I remember not liking that line, thinking it was really, really odd the way it was delivered, and just the whole line in itself was really odd. But then hearing it in context, actually, was a really nice line, and there was a lot of really nice bits of dialogue in there. Yeah, it was good. I think it's good to have Moffat back, and you can definitely tell it's him. But I think even when like Tennant came back in Day of the Doctor, you could tell it was Moffat writing the Doctor rather than. Because I don't know about you guys, but I feel like when Moffat writes a Doctor, it feels very different to how Russell does. So, for example, if you go from a series 4 Russell story to Science and Library, it feels like a very different Doctor. Don't know whether you would agree with that.
Yeah.
I don't know. I think you can tell that it's Moffat does have his own way of writing the Doctor, but in something like Series 4, because you've got so many different guest writers with different ways of writing the Doctor, it's kind of more distilled. Whereas I feel like maybe the problem is the fact that because we've only got 2 episodes that aren't written by Russell T Davies, it sort of sticks out like a sore thumb that this isn't Russell. Like they say in Doctor Who Unleashed, they interview Ncuti and Millie, and they're asked, "Oh, could you tell that this was written by someone else? That it has a different voice?" And they were like, "Yeah." And you can when you watch it. And I'm still not sure if that's a good thing or not, because I do like the way he was written, and that is the way that I've grown used to seeing the Doctor. That is how I see the Doctor, just like you do, Pete, and I assume Richard as well. It's that sort of quite quippy dialogue. Um, the way he was like, "Oh, smelted. That's a interesting word. A word I haven't used in a while." All that sort of stuff. That's very Moffat, but also felt very out of place because that's not how we've got to know this Doctor.
Yeah.
And I don't feel like we probably will see the 15th Doctor acting as sort of quippy or what's the word? More sort of like the Doctor that under Moffat has got a very sort of interesting moral compass.
Yes.
Especially with like the 12th Doctor in terms of like the Doctor is a name that you put to never be cruel or cowardly, and I'm not the Doctor, I'm just trying to live up to him.
Yes,
I think that Moffat has got great ideas about Doctor as a character, but I feel like he doesn't write the Doctor as the 11th Doctor, the 12th Doctor, the 15th Doctor. It's just the Doctor, and the incarnation is performed by the actor. Whereas I feel like it does need to come across in the writing a bit more that this is separate, because it did feel like this is the 12th Doctor. But yeah, I still really love the episode. It's just a point that I thought I would raise, because I think it was noticeable. Again, like you said, Richard, probably for the first time. I don't know if that's because we're becoming more aware of behind the scenes of the show, but it was the first time that I watched it, and it was like, this is written by someone else, and you can tell. I'm not sure how I feel about that.
Yeah, I guess because I suppose with maybe more of a writer's room approach for stuff like well, at least to begin with the Jodie era, and then like Chris Chibnall just doing all the episodes towards the end, and then before that with Moffat obviously being in charge, so he was kind of overseeing everything and putting his own spin on everything. I suppose, and his own voice into everything to a certain extent. I guess maybe, the last time maybe that would have been so noticeable would have been before his run as showrunner, which was many years ago. So it's a weird one. It's not something, like you say, that I kind of want to complain about, but it was noticeable. Also, as well, like hearing his Sherlock Holmes in there as well, like Benedict Cumberbatch. There were certainly lines in there and bits, and the bit like when he works out how much the urn canister thing weighs just by watching it being thrown or whatever. There's like an exact moment like that in the penultimate Sherlock episode, the middle one in series 4, where I think it's he catches a handbag, doesn't he? It's thrown to him or something, and he can tell that there's a gun in it because of the weight of it, and it was that kind of thing. Which, again, I didn't dislike it, but it was kind of noticeable. Maybe it did take him out a little bit, but ultimately, I don't know. I think it will be interesting going forward to see whether the other guest written episode this season, whether that feels so distinctive or whether that feels more kind of integrated into the overarching kind of house style. I don't know. I mean, there were certainly some bits like I kind of felt like towards the end when everything's resolved and he's there like dancing around with Splice and being very energetic again. I guess probably slightly more to do with Ncuti's performance as well, but that kind of moment of release at the end where he's finally able to move around again and to speak and to behave freely and not have to worry about staying on a landmine the whole time. There were certain and kind of outlandish way he expressed himself and stuff. I kind of felt that maybe was a bit more distinctive, but moments like that were slightly few and far between, I think I would say. I don't know.
Did you think there was going to be a song at the end?
Oh, well, there was a song at the start.
There was a song at the start, yeah.
Yeah.
Which is interesting as well, because it was, again, kind of sort of carrying that thread through. Like, obviously, like you say, there was the song at the end of the last episode, and then we go directly into this, and there's a song at the start of this as well. Obviously being used in a very different way. But yeah, that was interesting. It was an interesting through line, whether intentional or not. The fact that he's sung a song once again, and I suppose, like I was saying, the kind of dancing around and stuff at the end with Splice and everything. It's I suppose that's something that is carrying through in a manner of speaking. I don't know.
What do you think of the set as well? Because obviously it was all filmed in a studio, wasn't it?
Yeah, and it's using that sort of LED technology that Mandalorian became famous for, where you can have like an actual sort of CG effects rendered background in real time with the actors in the landscape. That was really cool. I think it worked really well.
Yeah, I think for the most part it was integrated well. I wasn't sure what to expect because I'm not sure I've actually watched anything with that effect in before. Like I haven't seen all the Star Wars shows and everything. But no, I think for the most part, I mean, it was weird because it was kind of slightly more of a background element, wasn't it? I think that they said, didn't they, on Unleashed or whatever, that even when you're in the crater, even when there's like a little bit of horizon or something there in the top of frame, that is the script. Or was that a painted backdrop maybe for that bit? Maybe I think the volume type thing was just for the bits at the start and end. Maybe it's I'd have to check, but it certainly didn't stick out to me. I don't think there were nice details there. Nice detail like in that closing scene as well. Where there's like a tiny little spaceship that's just kind of going along. I think Russell talked about it on the commentary as well, just in the distance. Nice little details like that, and that bit at the end had clearly been enhanced with visual effects anyway, because like you look at the join between what supposedly is the screen and like the studio floor, and like it goes up into the distance. So they've clearly kind of played around with that afterwards and augmented that and made it look better than it would have done before, I suppose. But no, it didn't distract me at all, I don't think.
Because I think for me it was probably the only negative, like big negative, was that it felt very studio bound. I don't know whether. See, I wonder. Part of me wonders whether it's because we're now so aware of the behind the scenes of how it's maybe start unleashed in the podcast and the commentary. Whether if those things didn't exist, whether I would have even necessarily picked up on it, I don't know. Because I know all of that, I can just tell straight away it's a studio, and it just the illusion's broken for me.
I think it is an interesting one in terms of the story more broadly as well. Like comparing it to the previous two stories in the season so far, both from a kind of a visual perspective and all that kind of stuff, and thinking of it in terms of images. Like we've said, the structure of this is very much tied down to that one location, but then that kind of, as a side effect of that, it means that it's not so visually interesting apart from the opening and the closing scenes. And so that is, maybe one thing where it's a tricky one because I don't know how they would have done more with that by sticking to the same concept. But I can sort of see in my own mind that, like if you think about it in your head in terms of what happens and the different images and the different scenes, compared to something like Devil's Cord, where you've literally, like you're on the roof, you're on Abbey Road, you're in the studios, you're out the studios, you're back in time, you're in this limbo space with Maestro in a different outfit, and and the music battle at the end, it kind of has that sort of, I don't know, comic book style thing, or like a kind of sticker book or whatever, where you can think, oh yeah, that would look great on a page with all those different scenes laid out because they're so different to each other and visually, and like with Space Babies as well, like with the prehistoric bit at the start and then going to space and the babies and Jocelyn and the bogeyman and all those different kind of images. Like I do see that visually, that it was maybe a bit of a failing of it. I don't know. Was there anything else, I suppose, that we were unsure about, didn't like about this? Because I think it's an interesting one, because there's been a lot of praise for it, hasn't there? And maybe it'd be interesting to delve into things. I mean, one thing I have seen people talking about is the whole commentary on faith and how that played out and the execution of that. I was wondering if we had any thoughts on that at all, either way.
I think it was a bit odd, some of the comments. I didn't necessarily dislike it, I didn't necessarily like it, but I think it was a little bit out of character.
I don't know. I feel like it's not unlike anything we've seen before. Again, it's the kind of stuff you can imagine Capaldi saying if he was in that situation, I think.
Yeah, but I think Capaldi was a much kind of stricter doctor, wasn't he? He was a much grumpier, cynical doctor than Ncuti, or what we've seen Ncuti be so far. I don't know.
So again, maybe it's the characterization is a bit inconsistent in the way that because Moffat also executive produced this, so I imagine Russell didn't really have much input or like script edit this much because of Stephen Moffat's past experience. So maybe he gave him total free reign, and that's why the character seems a bit inconsistent to what we've seen before. I don't think it's that out of character to Moffat's Doctor Who, but maybe it is out of character to Russell's Doctor Who. So maybe that's.
Yeah, I think it's interesting. I think it's that line that people have been kind of bringing up. The thing he says about faith being a magic word that stops you from having to think for yourself. And obviously, that you can kind of see the kernel of truth in there, or what he's going for. It's definitely a line when out of context sounds a bit off. Like speaking in broader context and hearing that through the Doctor's mouth as well, and even comparing to something like the 13th Doctor, when she talks about faith and like in Demons of the Punjab, when she says, "My faith is love," or whatever it is, and in Battle of Ranscroft Cars at the end, and she says, keep your faith, travel hopefully. And it's like that idea of, don't have faith in Tim Shaw or like evil people or whatever, like people that are manipulating you, which I suppose is a similar thing that Moffat was going for here. But she still kind of says, have a different type of faith in yourselves or whatever. And again, like it's such a kind of grey area, isn't it? And a topic like, because I think that's what he was ultimately going for. And at the end, with that bit as well, where Mundy Flynn says, like, "Oh, I thought you didn't like Faith, Doctor," and he's like, "Oh, just because I don't like it, it doesn't mean I don't need it or something," which again felt a little bit strange.
Yeah,
I think in context, it kind of does make sense. I think particularly watching it back and thinking, okay, like this comes like 30 minutes into the story, and given all the stuff that's happened and all the stuff he's witnessed. Like his new best friend has just died to all intents and purposes, and like all this stuff is going on, and he's surrounded by these people who won't, ironically, like have faith in him and like listen to what he's saying. And so I can kind of understand it contextually. I still think, maybe there's a kind of nagging sense of, I'm not quite sure in terms of the broader characterization of the Doctor, how this fits in. And again, that kind of links to our comments, I think, about how it felt a little bit estranged maybe from how the 15th Doctor has been characterised so far, and that kind of stuff, and the tonal balance of it, perhaps. It kind of, I think it's part of that broader issue, or kind of,
I think these are themes, like the whole faith thing, these are themes that crop up in the Moffat era a lot. You look at Lie of the Land, you look at the God complex, the creatures feeding off of faith. These are themes that aren't new to Doctor Who. Maybe it could have been done. I think as well. It's as you said. He at the end. Doesn't mean I don't need it. There are positives and negatives, and I guess it's just sort of putting it through a lens, like I don't know, media should do, and analyzing it just as it did with. There are themes of consumerism and capitalism in this. There's a lot to unpack with this. I don't think this is particularly new to Doctor Who. Again, I think it's just something that comes hand in hand with Moffat's sort of vision of the show and what it should do and what it should analyze for the audience.
Yeah, it's certainly been thought-provoking, and it's generated a lot of discussion, which I suppose is a good thing, isn't it, ultimately? So there's that. But I guess then, unless anyone else has anything else to say about this story, maybe we could move on to discussing.
There was just
next time. Go on.
One scene that I wanted to mention that I thought was really well done was the scene where Ruby's shot, and then the Doctor's she's on the ground, and he knows he can't move, and he was a little bit cry. This Doctor is a cry Doctor. He does cry a lot. But it was a wonderful scene. I thought the music was really good. Thought the direction was fairly good. I just really liked it. I thought it was a really nice scene, and the writing where he says there's a line something like I can't think and I can't think unless you're here, or it's something like that. And it was just nice scene. Enjoyed that. Sorry, Richard. Carry on.
Yeah, no, I think that was the moment she dies is a really shocking moment. And I think obviously
so unexpected.
And you don't think really in the moment to yourself. You don't really think, that's her gone for good. But it still does it doesn't take away from the impact that it has. Very reminiscent as well. I mean, I've said in another video, I think, and it kind of ties into the things we're discussing about like religion and faith and stuff. All of this very reminiscent of one of Moffat's most recent shows, Inside Man, as well. Like this situation that it goes from bad to worse to worse to worse to worse. And there's a moment in the final episode of that series as well, which again, like it brought to mind for me, where you're kind of expecting someone to die or someone to kill someone else, and it kind of subverts it by having some other player on the board kind of coming in from left field or whatever. So I did like that, and it was a genuinely very shocking moment. I thought it was very well executed, properly kind of jaw dropping stuff.
Yeah, edgy stuff.
Yeah. So 73 Yards is our next story. In the past day or so, 24 hours, it's been getting rave reviews from the press people and everyone, the reviewers. So I suppose, what are we thinking about that? Predicting are we going to like it or not? And as well, the broader mysteries and stuff going on. You know, Susan Twist, we had her again this week. So how do you think that's all kind of shaping up? Where things are heading?
I think
it's quite nice because I know very little about this one.
Well, all of us
know very little about this one.
Yeah. It's a real mystery. It's not quite as much of a mystery as Wild Blue Yonder was, but it's still a big mystery.
Is it a two-parter?
Is it a two-parter or is it just one? I think it's just one.
No.
It's an episode.
We don't know much about Dawson.
Well, yeah, that's true, isn't it? Yeah. No, it kind of feels the next few are quite mysterious. I think this one in particular because we know certain elements that are going to be in it, and it's difficult to talk about it as well because I've read quite a lot of the reviews and I don't want to then like give stuff away. As well that I may have come across, but there are certainly lots of different elements to it. This whole premise of Ruby and this figure who is 73 yards away from her, and this whole horror angle as well, and folklore. I think it's going to be really interesting. It's an episode that Russell described as one of the best things he'd ever written, like a year or two ago. So it'll be interesting to see whether people agree with that or not, I suppose. But yeah, I guess we've sort of had a Moffat Chamber episode. I'm kind of expecting it to be like a Russell Chamber episode next. I think it's been described as like a cross between Midnight and Turn Left. So, well, that may bode well. It may not, depending on on your own kind of personal mileage. Yeah, we shall see, I suppose.
See, the audio cut out then, but I knew what you said. I could work out what you said from the reaction around.
Yeah.
So we'll see. What happens. I'm looking forward to it. Actually, I think.
Yeah. I think this episode is going to be quite scary and quite adult, I think that this last episode, Boom, was quite adult and served well for being watched at midnight as well. Not only because of stuff like where on earth that tattoo that Monday did was, but also like examples like when you see Splice for the first time and there's the whole dramatic irony of we know what's happened to her dad, she doesn't, and the Doctor and Ruby do, and that sort of disconnects between like children and adults, and it felt very mature and very adult Doctor Who. Actually, it was very bleak, and I feel like this will be a continuation of that sort of darker tone, and also I feel like it will be perhaps not the justification for it, but it will be a good sort of case for this new step into fantasy that the show's doing. I think this will be an episode that you couldn't do before we started going a bit more mythical. I think it will be something completely different to what we've seen before, a bit supernatural and stuff unexplained. So that will be interesting to see. That's my prediction.
Yeah, nice one. I'm very much looking forward to it as well. And I guess we'll just see how all that stuff comes into play. It's very, very intriguing given what we do know, and also some of the stuff that was like at filming as well that they haven't officially like announced or confirmed, and cast members and things. So yeah, I'm going to stop talking about it because I don't want to give anything away. even just to someone like Pete who hasn't been kind of following it. I think it'll be a good one to go into as kind of blindly as you possibly can.
There wasn't even a preview, was there, in Doctor Who magazine? Or is that coming out this week?
I think it'll be in this week's, yeah. So like with days to go, yeah, like tomorrow or Thursday or whatever, when they come through our letterboxes, and some last minute bits and pieces, yeah.
But also, it's very strange that we know that Kate Stewart's going to be in it, but she's not in any of the trailers or anything.
Yes,
we know that.
I didn't even know that.
Sorry, Pete. We know that the politician character's going to be in it, but he's not in any of the trailers. So what's up with that? Unless it's going to be like, I don't know, maybe Ruby is jumping from place to place in like little vignettes, a bit like, I don't know, the Doctor in the Vanquishers, sort of flipping from little bits to bits, and maybe, you know,
maybe.
Like that one place she's in a folk house in Wales, the next she's in London with Kate, and maybe there's a third story we don't know about. I don't know, but I'm expecting a lot of stuff to not make sense and just sort of be along for the ride. That's what I'm expecting. I'm expecting it to be quite weird, and that's the kind of stuff I like. So I will be excited, and I'll be very happy if they do that.
Yeah. Well, there we go. Let's stop talking about it, I suppose, before we...
let's not spoil it for Pete.
Get too close to spoilers. Did you realise the politician was going to be in it, Pete, or not, before Josh just said that?
What was going to be in it, sorry?
The politician dude.
What do you say?
Okay, I'm going to...
I think so.
We'll leave it there. Okay, yeah, okay.
I thought... No, I thought he was in the episode after. To be honest, I thought he was all the Dotton stuff, the politician stuff.
Yeah, there was the same.
I think
block,
someone mentioned it.
That. Yeah, right. No, I'll stop talking now.
Because it's Dotton Bubble. Dotton Bubble's the slugs, isn't it? Is that right?
Dotton Bubble's the slugs. Yeah, that's right.
Okay. And then it's the
Regency one, and then the 2-part finale,
and then it's the episode where we find out the whole series has been a thing by the toy maker TV series.
Actually, that's an interesting thing to bring up as well. I mean, any of the these fan theories and things that have been going around like that, 'cause people have been saying like, oh, could it be like a whole meta thing, like a TV show, like set inside a kind of a world where the characters are within a TV show or they're within a story, and that's why I've got all these winks to camera, and that's why I've got the songs and the musical numbers and stuff. I'm not sure how much I personally believe that. As well as anybody's seen the trickster theory that's been going around, because again, that's what I do not personally think there's anything to, but
no, I think it's because the score sounded similar to.
It sounded similar, yeah, but it's definitely not the same.
No, I don't think the trickster's coming back.
No.
As much as that would be cool because he was a good villain. Well, actually, in whatever happened to Sarah Jane Smith, The Temptation, and The Wedding of Sarah Jane Smith, it's all the same sort of. His thing.
Yeah, it's the same story, isn't it? Kind of just dressed up differently. Yeah.
So maybe not. I don't think there's much credence to that theory though, but we'll see.
Sure. No. Well, yeah. Okay. On that note, then, thank you both very much for joining me once again, and we will all see you, I suppose, next week to dissect 73 yards and see, how that ends up and what that ends up being.
And thanks to Miles for joining us as well.
Yeah, we were waiting for that twist at the end, but it's not come. Yeah, so
there's been, you know what? I'm amazed that we've got through this because there's been the biggest audio delay ever on this last recording we've done. So well done to us all for getting through it.
It must be.
Can I do the outro? Can I have that on?
You can, yeah. I mean, I was going to say it must be the. I was going to say the Villain Guard, but no, the Villain Guard Corporation virus kind of hacking the Zoom call and getting in the mainframe or whatever the heck it is. Yeah, go on. Give us your best outro.
Right, pressure's on now. Right.
This has got to be the best outro.
Drum roll.
Remember to subscribe. Comment below which one you think is the most charismatic. Make sure you like it. Tell your friends about it. Tell your colleagues about it. Tell your neighbours about it. Richard Lloyd is the next best thing since sliced bread. Really good YouTube channel. Also, he's not here, so I shouldn't big him up for this, but Miles has got a podcast. It's pretty good, called Knowing Who. I've not been invited on it yet. He's probably waiting for the season finale when they've got a bit more budget to invite me on. Hopefully that'll happen soon. I'm only down the road, so it'll happen eventually. But subscribe and have a lovely week and enjoy 73 yards. That was Captain Jack and Rogue.
Thoughts and prayers, and kiss.
Thoughts and prayers. Kiss.
Kiss.
Yeah. Kiss.